Hello and welcome to the Curiosity and Consciousness podcast with me, Karen Maloney. I am your host, and the intention of this podcast is to help us open our minds, get curious about ourselves, and to raise our vibration and consciousness levels. Through these conversations, we hope that you will go on an inward journey to discover the truth of who you are and to become aware of your own energy and vibration. We have the power to consciously create our lives, but we need to wake up to this fact before we can begin the process and learn the key of self-responsibility. Check out the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Acast, Castbox, or whatever platform you listen on, and please like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Leave a review, leave a rating, as this will help it to reach more people. Check out my website as well, Soul Power Light, www.soulpowerlight.com. Hello everybody, how are you all doing? It's me, Karen Maloney, and thanks for tuning in for another episode. This week it is me, myself and I just coming to you again, and I wanted to talk about a topic that I was asked about. I had put out a poll and a question box recently on Instagram about anyone who had questions with things that they were struggling with, or just any questions in particular. And one of them was that came back from quite a number of people was about learning how to control our thoughts or to calm our mind, and especially even at nighttime before going to sleep. So that is exactly what I want to share about today and talk about today. And like everything, for me, there is a bigger picture as well, and that's the concept I want to share with you first of all. And especially when it comes to our mind and thoughts, really it is our own mind and ego identification that makes everything so much more challenging. And I know for some people that may seem like a difficult concept to grasp, because again, it takes some inner work and awareness and rewiring to come to this realization. But first and foremost, I want to share this because it's a really important baseline to say. So essentially, having an overactive mind or constantly worrying mind is as a result from over-identification with our mind, with our ego, and with this physical 3D world. And again, that may seem crazy, but we are over reliant on our mental mind, over identified with the physical world, and really trying to force an effort or life to happen for us. And of that mindset of, well, if I'm not thinking and doing and achieving and planning, it's not going to happen. And yes, absolutely, those aspects are important, but when we live from that place all the time, it only leads to mental exhaustion, depression, anxiety, burnout, stress, all those things. And the part that we're really missing is to connecting to our truth, our soul, our essence, our spirit, our higher self, God, source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, beyond just our mental mind. And it's really that disconnection, which in my experience and from lots of people I work with and lots of other people I follow, it is that lack of that emotional and spiritual connection that really makes us suffer more in the physical and the mental mind. So I just want to set that context and scene out there first. And even Deepak Chopra, or many people as well, have said that our spirit is not in our body. Our body is in our spirit. And again, if you think of that concept, that insinuates that our spirit is vast. It is huge. It is all consuming, and our body is just a tiny aspect of that. So instead of the other way around, just our spirit being in our body, which will be very limited, or body is in our spirit. And even visualizing that, again, that highlights the importance or why when we don't have a connection to that aspect of ourselves, which is the greater aspect of ourselves, and we have an over-identification on the physical body and the mental mind, well, like that, we are disconnected from the greater part of ourselves. So then we will always nearly suffer and be a victim of the physical world and of our mental mind. And that's not saying that there aren't challenges and difficulties, there absolutely are. But again, it's the meaning and the stories and the thoughts that we create about the situations that are happening that make everything so much worse. And I know for anyone who hasn't done any inner work and hasn't had glimpses of this realization and truth, what I'm saying can seem really kind of crazy or out there, and that's fine. That's totally fine, because everyone's at where they're at in their journey. But for me, it's really important to set that context as well, because that is the greater truth. And when we can flip how we're essentially living and connect more to that bigger part of ourselves, that higher mind, that true self, well, then we will suffer less at the hands of our thoughts. So that's the greater message, I suppose, I'm sharing from sharing that little tidbit as well, is that, again, we can control our thoughts essentially. But again, we have to do that work and to retrain ourselves to live again from that higher mind, as opposed to just the physical mental mind. When we come from that place of higher mind and filter down to our physical mind, we are really powerful and we can do anything we want. But when we're living just at the level of the mental mind, it's extremely limited, and we will always feel less than or not good enough, or like something is missing and lacking. And that's something that's missing and lacking is the bigger part of ourselves, that connection. But anyway, so that's just the groundwork, the foundation, the higher perspective that I wanted to set the tone for first. And that's the most important work that we can do as well in learning to connect to that higher part of ourselves, because that will help us calm our minds and become the conscious controller of our thoughts and not live at the mercy of our thoughts, like I mentioned. But until you get to that level and do the inner work that's required to get there, what else can you do to help calm your mind? Well, there are lots of things, and something that is spoken about all the time that I'm sure if you haven't started and don't have a practice of, you will be blue in the face or maybe roll your eyes going, oh, here we go again. This word, this practice, I just can't do it. I can't do it. And this is often what we tell ourselves. But the practice is meditation. It has been scientifically proved over and over and over again that meditation is such a super powerful tool for calming our mind, for coming out of the fight or flight, and for moving into that more rest and digest. And when we're in that more relaxed rest and digest state, again, that's when we can connect more to our higher mind. So is meditation difficult? Yes, it's absolutely difficult, I believe, for everyone who starts it, including myself. I found it so challenging, but again, that was because I was living from the level of my mind and believing that I needed to be so busy and believe my thoughts and not take time to rest, not take time to slow down, because that was a waste of time, because there were so many things I needed to do because I was living at the level of mind. So yes, this is all how we live. So yes, meditation is difficult for everyone, I believe, when they start. But what makes the difference is persistence, is building the discipline, is doing it anyway, even on those busiest days, even on the days when you really don't want to do it, is the day you sit your ass down and you do it, no matter what. And knowing that your thoughts will wander, knowing that you will struggle, but you still choose to sit there, because when you build the discipline and the practice, things begin to change. And it's only when you get to experience the changes through discipline and dedication and commitment that then you realize the power of it, and then it becomes a habit that you crave. And I know that was the case for me, still is, and for many others as well. But again, You have to move and persist and transcend the mind chatter of the mental, physical mind that has such a grip on you right now, and you have to move beyond it to be able to experience the benefits. So, without a shadow of a doubt, meditation is a practice that will help calm your mind. But again, it's consistency. Doing it once or twice, doing it once in a blue moon, doing it every now and again is not going to give you the benefits. You're only just going to see the difficulty, the struggle, how hard it is, and tell yourself you can't do it. It's even when you're telling yourself you can't do it, that's exactly when you sit down and you do it. And again, there's lots of guided meditations on YouTube. Insight Timer is a brilliant app. So pick one of them, build a discipline, and do it. And do it until you experience the benefits, because again, that's always the case. It's not just understanding cognitively, it's doing it enough, doing any of these practices enough to feel the benefit of the experience. And when we feel the benefits of the experience, we are connecting with the subconscious mind and we are beginning to rewire ourselves. So it is so important to persist. Other things then to calm the mind, going out in nature. Nature is the great replenisher. Nature is so powerful. Nature is our mother. Nature will help us feel relaxed. It takes and recharges our body with positive electrons. So we literally feel renewed, like we can breathe again. We are out of our mental mind and we are connected more to our body. We are centered, we are awake, we are conscious, we are grounded. And even better, taking your socks and shoes off and putting your bare feet on the ground is super powerful as well. Because again, nature gives us everything that we need. And often, again, in society, and especially in Western society, we're so disconnected again from the bigger picture, the truth of who we are and nature. So take your socks and shoes off, go sit outside, put your bare feet on the ground, place your back against a tree, and believe me, you will instantly again experience the benefits. You'll take probably a deep sigh, you'll feel renewed, because again, you're coming out of that mental mind identification, that chatter, that human mind, and you're connecting more to your spirit, your soul, your essence, that bigger part of you that is beyond the mind. So it is the great restorer, it is the great renewer, and the more that you can get outside, get some fresh air, again, just taking the time to take some deep cleansing breaths and being outside is super, super powerful. Another aspect that can help you calm your thoughts is yoga. Yoga, again, is one of those practices that can be really challenging. And I know for me as well, it was in the beginning, because my mind was so crazy and did not want to stop for a second, that during all my practices in the beginning, all my mind was telling me was, this is so boring, this is a waste of time, you could be doing 1,000,001 other things, I have to do this, I have to do that, this is so boring, I want to leave, I want to finish, oh my God, and all these thoughts. But again, through the discipline, through the practice, I really moved beyond the mental chatter and I experienced the ease, the expansion, the less tension and less stress in my body. And I realized the truth of the word yoga actually means union, and it means union with body and breath. And by building that discipline, that practice, I really built that connection. And that's what yoga helps you do as well. It's syncing body and breath. It's coming out of mind. It's moving beyond the mind again. And it is connecting to that deeper inner truth and that vastness that is to us. But again, in order to experience that vastness, we have to come out of the mind. We have to get still and silent and learn to quieten the chatter. And the more that we learn to quieten the chatter and experience the quietness of the chatter, the more that we see and experience and know that there is so much more beyond our mind. So yoga, again, is another powerful one. Another one as well, especially maybe, well, when it comes to that racing mind when you go to bed, there's a couple of things. So before even getting into bed, it's noticing how are you spending the hours leading up to going to bed. Because again, that's crucial. You know, if you're eating very late, if you're watching like really anxious or tense movies, or you're stuck on the screen right before you go to bed, you're not giving your body a capacity or a space to wind down. So there's always that question, what are you doing leading up to bed? And how can you best support yourself in preparing for bed? You know, switching off the phones, turning off the screens, maybe reading, winding down, doing a meditation, having a relaxing bath or shower and putting some nice relaxing body oils on, not eating before you go to bed. So all these things that we can do before we get into bed. But then when you're in bed and if your mind is racing, you can always try journaling. So get a pen and paper and write out everything that's going through your mind. Write out all the thoughts, all the stories, all the fears, all the things you have to do the next day, whatever it is that's going through your mind, write it out. Because again, that's a form of release, and at least writing it out, it's not whirring around in your head anymore. So that's one thing. Another thing you can do, again, is like a meditation or connect to your breath. Consciously put your focus, because again, our mind can only focus on one thing at a time. Yes, we can jump really quickly from one thing to another, but we only have one point of focus, and that is our attention. So if we take our attention and put it on our breath and repeat to ourselves, I am inhaling and I am exhaling. I am inhaling, I am exhaling. As you're breathing in and out, it's giving your mind something to do. Yes, the thoughts will try jump in. Yes, you'll be gone off in a tangent before you know it. But the minute you catch yourself, you come back to focusing on your breath. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. And keep doing it. Keep doing it until you feel more relaxed and calm and fall into a sleep. Again, you could try read before going to bed to help yourself wind down a little as well. You could try diffusing or having a spray with lavender in it that you can put on your pillow or put on your temples. Again, there are things like tapping that you can do. You can Google tapping for sleep or anxiety or whirring thoughts, and you could do a quick tapping before you go to bed. But again, I'll also bring in something that is bigger picture again, because it's not even just what we do before we go to bed, but it's also what we are doing when we wake up in the morning and how are we living our day. Because as Louise Hay said, how you start your day is how you live your day, and how you live your day is how you live your life. Again, how we start our day is so crucially important. And a lot of people, and I know it was me as well, the first thing I used to do when I would wake up was reach for my phone. And I would jump from email to text to WhatsApp to socials to whatever. And already you're starting the day when you do that. You're already starting the day in like a frantic pace, because I would spend too long on the phone, jumping from social media to emails to whatever. And then I was like, oh shit, I don't have enough time, and I'm rushing and racing to get ready, to get out the door, to get to work on time, or to whatever I had to do. So then there's that high energy adrenaline of rushing throughout the whole day. So then that's the energy that sustains me throughout the whole day. So then when I come to evening time, I'm still on that frenetic kind of high adrenaline buzz. So how you start your day is so crucial. And again, when we wake up, the first half an hour before we wake up and the last half an hour before we fall asleep are the most crucial half an hours as well, because we're literally coming from, well, in the morning, deeper brain waves to beta brain waves, like our thinking mind. And in that half an hour, our subconscious is wide open. And if we are jumping from pillar to post and starting the day on the back foot and rushing and racing, we are programming our subconscious mind to live in that state. And I don't just mean that day, I mean all the time, because our subconscious mind is where all our patterns and programs run from. So if that's the way we're programming ourselves, it's very difficult then to shift out of that. It's possible through all the things I've shared, but again, if you're starting the day, and especially that first half an hour, just take a few moments, take a few deep breaths to even realize that, oh, I'm awake. It's a new day. I've been given the gift of a new day. I've woken up again. Because again, we get so complacent thinking we're just always going to wake up. But there will be a day when we won't wake up. And that's fine. That's not to live in fear. That's the way it is. So it's even taking a conscious moment to realize I'm awake. And in that first half an hour, just easing into the day. Do not pick up your phone. Leave it on flight mode. Do not pick it up for at least half an hour to give yourself that time. Go wash your face, have your breakfast, whatever you do. And then when you're feeling more awake and alert and conscious, pick up your phone. Then you can start into the day. But at least you've consciously connected to yourself, to your breath, to the fact that you're awake before interacting with the world. And that will make a huge difference in your life. And the same for at the end of the day, the last half an hour before we fall asleep is super important as well, because we're going from our beta brainwaves into deeper, lower brainwaves and falling asleep. And again, in that half an hour as we're falling asleep, our subconscious is wide open. So what are you doing? Again, if you're on the phone, jumping from socials to WhatsApp to whatever, to watching the news, to watching a scary movie, to whatever, that has all been programmed into your subconscious mind. And again, there's that fear, that panic, that frantic anxiety, high adrenaline, high anxiety living. So it's so crucially important, not just what you're doing right before you go to bed, but again, how are you starting your day? Because that can often have a huge influence throughout the day. So there are just some tips to help you calm your mind. And again, there's a lot of bigger picture stuff as well, because that's what we need to do. We need to pull ourselves out of the current stories and just seeing the current situation and connecting to the bigger picture that can help us to make shifts easier as well. So there's the bigger picture of over-identification with the mind and ego in the first place, and that disconnection from our spiritual and emotional mind. There is the bigger picture as well of how we're starting our day, and if we're starting off in that really frantic, high adrenaline, high anxiety, always rushing and racing from the get-go, that's going to have an influence throughout our day. And then also, do we have any supportive practices that are helping us as well to get out of the mental chatter of our mind, whether that be meditation, being in nature, journaling, yoga, whatever it is. So the more that we can add these practices in and connect to the bigger picture, the calmer we are going to be in general, because we are calming our nervous system. So then when it comes to calming our thoughts, it is much easier. And as well, before we go to bed, we're not feeling as much stuck in that racing mind. So try them out. Let me know how you get on. Let me know what you think. And for anyone who's really struggling with this, this is what I do as well in my one-to-one coaching. So if someone does need some support or feels so ready to shift their focus and their over identification with that ego mental chatter mind, and they're just exhausted by it, reach out. We'll jump on a free call and see how I could support you in making these permanent, long-lasting changes and transitions in your life. So go to my website, soulpowerlight.com, or pop me an email, karen@soulpowerlight.com, and we will go from there. And remember, you are the operant power in your life. Everything is in your hands. But again, when we haven't been taught how to use skills and build skills that support us, we can live again at the mercy of our mind and our thoughts. But I'm here to let you know there is another way. 100 million%. Never lose hope. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you get notified every time a new show is released. Get more information on this week's guest as well on my website, www.soulpowerlight.com.